This is Petito's Gang. Subject is a very somber one. It's not one that should be taken lightly. What is the human life worth? How is it possible that for the purpose of just voting to elect people into positions where they are supposed to just be agents of service, we end up losing so many people? In 2019, some parts of our country turned into war zones around the election. Rivers is a particularly tragic case in point. Bayelsa was quite bad. And in broad daylight in Ibadan, someone was shot point blank in the eye. Not to talk of the skirmishes all around the place. Can we, should we, must we continue to tolerate election violence? What are the consequences? In 2011, there was widespread killing in some parts of Nigeria following the announcement of the results of that election. We thought we had reached the lowest and that things would never go back that way. But 2019 became a civil war in many parts of the country. What's responsible for this, and how can we possibly curb election violence?
Well, politics has been taken as it's been seen as a do or die fear. We see that a lot of our politicians will not learn to play by the rules, and some of their children can never be used as thugs. They can never be used as hooligans. They are kept far away outside the shores of the trouble zones. We also find out that militarization will go a long way in heating up the politics. A lot of people will say, for instance, Women Arise deployed over 1,000 observers. In Lagos, about 500. So we created a situation room where we'll have reports. I mean, Rivers, it was just like war. What are soldiers meant for? They are not supposed to go and hijack materials and do a lot of things. And some of our politicians, because they've not been able to deliver, no dividends of democracy, so they will ensure that they kill. And that's why I still like what the past president said, that nobody's ambition is worth anyone's life. I mean, the person that has been killed might have been the best Patutomi, might have been the best one that you have the best president. So life has become so cheap, hellish bridges and shorties, but impunity is on the rise.
Yes, one of the things that I could have said that this is a new wave, but it's not. It has been going on for quite some time. And what actually heightened it up more this time around, we're talking about 2019, is the famous statement made by our president and the Kaduna State governor, where you talk about body bags and where you talk about should you cut whatever, undermining our electoral laws. However, people need to get reoriented to know that, listen, elections are supposed to be things of the joy. It's supposed to be something of excitement on the air that, hey, guys, we're about to get into a new era. Somebody is about to come to change certain things. But Nigerians, for some reason, we've gotten it all wrong. Having said that, we must begin to interrogate our leaders. We must hold them accountable for what they say. Because people take clues. See, Pat might not come out and tell me, go and deal with this guy. But his body language, don't forget, this country was ruled by body language for almost 6 months or more, where we keep talking about body language, body language. So body language is real in Nigeria. And we must begin to look at these things and tell our leaders, listen, you can't heat up the polity just because you feel you want to send a message. River State here just
is that hate speech you're talking about?
Well, we see that. You see, hate speech. I've always told people this in my legal distance that, listen, hate speech is based on who spoke it. No,
Okay.
yes.
Right.
Who spoke it?
Okay.
Because certain people can say certain things is not considered hate speech. But when somebody of whatever says it, it becomes hate speech.
Is
So
that
we
not
need
a
to
matter of history, though? So if you are known to be of a certain kind,
Yes.
and you say something, then they know where you're coming
Yes,
from.
yes,
So they put
yes.
it in context and know that this guy is not being fair.
Exactly.
Okay, so
So-
if I'm an Igbo person and I
Yes.
say, oh, Igbos are known to be a certain way,
Yes.
an Igbo person may not be upset
Yes,
by it. But
I-
if they know that I'm from the north of a Westerner who typically has an abhorrence for certain Igbo things, then the Igbo person would
Yes,
take it
I just
from knowing
wanted
that,
I just wanted to
you
land.
know.
I just wanted to land by saying what Prof have echoed here.
Yes.
That in 2011, if I recall, there were a lot of people were killed up in the north and all that. And if you pay attention to what actually brought that, was a statement by a certain person who actually felt that, listen, if I'm going to lose this election, I'm going to unleash mayhem on people. So, again, reorientation, minding what we talk, mostly to our leaders, is very, very important. And you see, when you talk about hate speech, ordinary person cannot say anything negative.
Yes.
I want you to know that. Because he who is on the ground fears no fall no more.
Yes,
anymore. But
yes.
it's what inflames these things are those who are in a position of authority. See, authority is not a staff. Authority has to do with what you say. Very, very inflammatory, can cause all kinds of things. So that's what I wanted
So that's
to add
what
on that.
causes
Yes.
this violence. Okay, there are a couple of people who think that they have a right, it's their privilege to rule over people. Now, it's not a do or die affair. If there's something that, no matter what the previous president did, President Goodluck Jonathan, almost all of his sins are forgiven because of the way he transitioned from his position of authority. It wasn't a do or die affair. He let it go. He let it go. He wasn't going to fight for it. And I think that that's what more leaders need to do. But then again, there's also the matter of the education of the masses. And I will talk about that, and I'll talk about the middle class who feel like it doesn't concern them, okay? Oh, I have a good job. No matter what, I'll have a job. So it doesn't really concern me. So the masses who go out to vote get 5,000 naira and think that this is it, you know? And you forget that if you divide it by 4 years, it's probably 340 naira a day, which means nothing. Okay, so for instance, when I went out to vote, for whatever reason, I was misdirected. So I had to trek kilometers to my vote. I was adamant that I'd vote. So these young boys escorted me there. And I said, did you vote? One of them was 18. And he says, no, nothing concerned me, auntie. I'm like, why not? He said, nothing. And how much? And I said, so, and his friend said, well, I said, I hope you don't take money when, you know, it's time for you to vote. And he says, his friend says, he will take Joe. And that was an opportunity for me to preach at him, okay? Because I see that these are young men who need guidance. They are around people who would probably take it and keep it moving. If you then move on to the middle class who think, I don't care, who are educated enough to know that they can influence people around them, then you see that we have a big challenge. So you have a lot of riffraffs running for office, riffraffs voting them in, people who are misguided, who have been failed from all levels of society.
Another worrisome thing, one thing we notice that when you have security operatives, you have the soldier, you have the police, you have all of them. They militarize them. If there are no professional ethics, if you have somebody carrying ballot balls, if you have, I saw a lot of disturbing video where somebody, one of our observers was shot in the neck. Another one was killed in Enugu. That one that was shot was in Ondo. And you find out that you saw a soldier, he said, move. And then you are moving. He shoots you on the leg. They said, get up. The other one. You know, there are lots of disturbing videos that we saw. So all those that have flouted the Constitution, no matter how flawed our Constitution is, those who have flouted the Constitution must be brought to book so as to serve as a deterrent. Because they are the ones also.
We saw videos of rigging, and nothing has been done, and nobody's talking about it.
No, what surprised me in Nigeria is we always adding a new lexicon into our conversation. I think the era of this place we are running a police state have gone. It's now militarization, obviously, which is the heavy stuff. Because anywhere you talk about, they're talking about militarization.
But the real issue,
and true.
the real issue is that there's a new fascism. There's emerging a political culture, people who think they are political overlords, who desire the complete domination of others.
This is emerging.
It's been on, but it's crystallized significantly now. That who the hell are you? I am Lagbaja, I own this state.
Yes.
And if you don't behave like I want, fire, brimstone, everything will happen here. And their followers take cue from that. So there's an emerging fascism in our country. And you get the warlords popping up around the country. If this is not contained, we are going into full-blown tyranny. Now, people forget how fascism emerged in Europe. Hitler was a politician. He won elections. He wasn't some military guy who took over power. But he kept going and kept going. And before we knew it, he became who he became, the real monster, Mussolini, all of these people. So I think that we need to be particularly careful in dealing with the issues that have come out of this election.
If I may ask, Prof, we are talking about Rivers State as a case study here. Ever before Amechi and Wike came into the political arena, have there been killings like this? Because you see, when you look at it deeply, is this rivalry of a thing like you use the word, Lord, I'm this, I'm that, I'm that. And somebody is pulling federal might, somebody is pulling this, that, and all that. By the time you know it, come on, man. These guys, we need to fiscally.
All right, these are ego trippers. And we've got to take a break, find out what the people think, and come back to how we will check these people. Because if we don't check them, they will check us permanently. We'll be right back.
When the government is seen that way, it will be reduced. We don't want people that are just striving to get there.
It's quite unfortunate that the international community, some members of international community international observers, they say this election was quite peaceful and free and fair. But from what we've seen, it's far from the truth. The truth of the matter is the president announced that people that snatch ballot boxes will be dealt with ruthlessly. This kind of put fear in the minds of people that want to snatch ballot boxes. But there is another form of rigging. Burning ballot boxes is rigging election, where you go to a particular place where you know your opponent voted, or a lot of persons voted for your opponent. You go there, send your talks to burn ballot boxes. It's not free and fair. So I think these issues has to be reviewed, there's something we have to do about it as a nation. The INEC and the relevant authorities, they should know what to do about it. The election was not totally free and fair.
Before it used to be ballot box snatching, but now it's now ballot box burning. It's so sad. It's so sad. Sometimes we look like we don't want to evolve in Africa. We don't want to grow. We don't want to outgrow the days whereby people believe in thuggery, militancy. It shouldn't be so. You promise to effect change. You promise to bring transformation to the society. Why should you sponsor talks? It's something that shouldn't be encouraged at all. The individual, let's take for example the incident at Okota whereby party agents and thugs disturbed election in that particular polling unit, and the voters there had to regroup and attack. Thank God the person didn't lose his life. But the truth of the matter is, should such a thing continue in our society? No, it shouldn't. We know these people. We know them very much. They are close to us. These party agents are even closer to the voters than the candidates. So therefore, when you know that this person is a dangerous person to the society, this person is violent, why not quickly make reports to the appropriate quarters? You can easily write petition to INEC, do the normal report in whatever means you can do, just to show that these agents, these people have talks and agents that are of evil interest.
We are back. This is still Potatoes Gang, and we're talking election violence. Now, as we've been saying, pretty central to most of these egos, this prideful desire for the domination of others, for imposing oneself on others. Where does it flow from in our culture? Why are people who are nothing really? I mean, all of us really are nothing, if we think about it. But many of the people who are doing this thing were just street boys a few years ago. Why are they of such big egos that society cannot check? How did they get to being what they are? In my view, central to it is because the process of accountability has been lacking in our system. So this University of Port Harcourt boy or University of Benin boy, who was very poor on campus, he was lucky somehow he even got in. He gets into politics because he doesn't know what else to do. Yes. And some character calls him a PA. He's really a glorified gangster that runs errands for him. And the next day, they give him one title. And then he goes, there's nobody like me. Yeah. Nobody has held him accountable for the misbehavior yesterday. So he gets to the next position. He gets worse in his behavior. And suddenly people are dying around the place because of him. How do we begin to introduce greater accountability into the system so that we don't create these kinds of monsters?
Discipline is very, very important. Like you rightly said, see, I also believe that there's this silence when it comes to naming people. It's not that we don't know who these people are, but for some reason everybody's so afraid. Yes. Oh, don't say it, don't say it. See, the fact lies that what you avoid today can be
eventually come and haunt you tomorrow.
So time. The point is very clear. Like you rightly said, we are nobody. Nobody is anything other than you won an election and all that. But we also need to be very careful in putting a name on something. I still never understood the fact that somebody will say, "Oh, I'm going to capture certain area. I will deliver certain type of vote for you." Where is all this language coming from?
So you see, it's a culture. It's not new. It's not new. If you want to go back in our history, it's not new. Obafemi Awolowo himself complained that some of the challenges one of the biggest challenges we had in our traditional society was corruption, because everybody wanted to be rich. I read a story about, and it's not just within Nigeria as well. I read a story about Abraham Lincoln, who, when he first became president of the United States, at Senate, they wanted to laugh at him because they said, "Oh, do you remember?" One of the rich guys stood up and said, "Your father used to make shoes for me." Okay, and he was like, as long as he did it with passion, he was a great shoemaker and everything. So it's not new. Or if you think about Things Fall Apart and Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart, you had to have big yams, you had to have many wives, you had to prove that you were powerful. And so
but human success itself is not a problem.
Yeah, no, but the thing is, that's why. So when you have guys like this that do not have, that come from a background that has failed them in the first place, and then just have access to power.
I think we have to contend with the rule of law, because we have one law. There should not be two sets of law for the different, because as we speak, Nigeria is like a volcano that wants to erupt, and we should not let it erupt because we don't know who is engulfed. So as much as possible, anyone who is, except for those who have immunity for now, the International Criminal Court of Justice is still there, the ICC. But how do we hold these people accountable? We must ensure that during elections,
civil society has a very critical role. Civil society should be able to do a documentary on these things and take these people's names to International Criminal Court. If you say the government of Nigeria will do it, it will not, because these are the people who run the government of Nigeria.
Yes. No, we are documenting such, and we know that no life that is lost, that someone will not be held accountable. No, for that. We said during elections, no one should move around with their details. But you see some people who want to show their might, and you see them moving about with soldiers, moving about with police. No, there's just one law for one, and those that live in glass house must never trust.
But you see, there's no will to carry these things through. You see, the poverty mentality is such that everybody is waiting their turn. So even if you see somebody doing something wrong, when you should flag it up, you're afraid that you may not get a contract if you speak up. You're afraid that you will not be given a political position. So everybody is avoiding saying the things that they ought to say.
Yes, one of the ways I think we should change the narrative is to basically let people know that the discussion of ideas is more important than discussion of
who you are wanting to talk to has no idea. How can you have that?
Well, that's what I'm saying. That is why our process of throwing these people up needs to be cross-checked. Because you have to have some certain qualification. I remember you just said something before. Yes, he did. You mentioned it in South Korea. Exactly. So why can't we adopt that kind of a thing?
People are expected to market their manifesto.
Does it mean?
And when you see them, they come out, they continue to hit up the polity, they because they have nothing.
Yes.
And the electorate themselves will not
I can tell you one example of a person who was running and a governor. Who was one of the closest people to power in that political party, said to me, that person has been running for so long, has never made one intelligent sentence about how to run a people. Yet that governor was part of a machine that made that person a candidate.
Oh, absolutely.
You know,
I have always wondered how you can, that's why you can't compare private and public sector. So private sector persons, okay? Now, you want to run for office, you only have to have attempted WAEC. But to get to the top, of the private sector, you have to have a degree, masters, all sorts to buttress your skills. Okay? But this one you have to have attempted. Now, there's a reason why the NYSC scheme was introduced. To teach you unity by traveling to a different part of the country and learning and mixing with those people. And to run for office, it means that if you do not have a degree, you don't need to have served. So you attempted. If you get all F's, it's okay. You don't understand anything about unity.
What you're talking about is qualification.
No, you don't understand unity. You don't have any exposure whatsoever. And from that point of view, you want to rule a people. What are you teaching them?
Madam, what you are just alluding to is about qualification. And I'm sorry to tell you this. We have, most of them are professors, most of them are
literates.
What we are talking about here,
certificated
illiterates. What we are talking about here is that there are entitlements, people that felt that this state belongs to me just because they have ruled it once. And the way to garner power is to do something
again,
drastic.
The language we use is important.
Very, very important.
We shouldn't talk about ruling.
Yes. Well,
it's served as governor once.
Some in Nigeria we don't serve, we rule. So we all know that.
So I think that what we need to emphasize is the fact that, and that's something that we've all touched upon, education is key, and people need to realize that we also have the power to change. Yes. Like, we can't keep on talking and not do the right things. We have to influence ourselves.
And you made a very important point earlier, the middle class. I referred, in fact, I'm writing a whole book, The Complicit Middle. Problem of Nigeria for me are those educated people who think that because they can manage an existence, they're okay. I'll buy, the street is not tarred, I can buy myself an SUV. Yes. This thing, election. Yes. These people wahala. Don't bother me, let them do whatever they like.
Yes, before they break my head when I go to vote, and they let it go.
Ultimately, I believe that they are more responsible for the problems of this country than even those adventurers who are doing those things.
I agree very strongly.
And in discussing today's topic, let's just remember all those that have died and ensure that they will not die in vain. And let us account for all those that are still missing and all those that have perpetrated these heinous acts, no matter how highly or lowly placed they are.
How long it takes, they should be prosecuted.
Yes.
It may curb election violence if those things are followed through.
And if the government, if the apparatus of government in Nigeria is unwilling to do it, we must take it beyond Nigeria. Let the International Criminal Court deal with these kinds of issues. Okay, it's time to go, unfortunately, but we have to. Well, you've heard it. I'm sure you want to continue the conversation. We can do that on our various social media handles and all of that. Thanks for joining us. This is still Patitos Gang, and we'll see you next week.